3 years under your belt. Does it feel like 3 already? Has it gone by fast?
It's gone by fast. It feels like it's been a shorter time than that, but then looking back at just all the experiences I've had in the first 3 years, a lot's happened. So kind of both, but yeah, it flies by. I mean, we're on such a schedule and routine, the years just go by so fast.
We talked about this before. From a young age, you were kind of destined to be going to the NFL. All everyone was talking about was, when's Trevor Lawrence at the NFL? Is the spotlight now you're here, has it been everything you expected? Has it been as intense maybe as you expected?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just adjust as you go, and you don't know what you don't know, and then you figure it out when you get there. That's kind of always how I've dealt with things, especially spotlight and whatever it may be, the pressures of playing this game and also playing this position, it just comes with it. So I think from a young age, I've kind of had some version of a spotlight, which is in some ways, unfortunate, but in some ways I think it's helped prepare me for this and knowing how to handle myself. And I think that's a big thing. I've had some practice over the years, since I got to Clemson, since I was a freshman, I've kind of been under that spotlight and dealing with expectations and all the things that the outside creates, that noise.
Right.
I'm used to that. So it's helped prepare me for this for sure, but it changes every year. I mean, every season, and there's frustrating things about being in this position, but it's part that comes with it. There's some great things too. So you got to take the good with the bad, and I think that's something that over the years I've learned how to do.
I guess it was even earlier than that. Even if you took it to little league level or whatever level it is, because of the position, every team, no matter where they play, looks to their quarterback. That's part of the position, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. You get, someone told me this years ago, and it's true. You get way too much credit when things go good, and you get too much blame when things don't go well. So it's like I said, you take the good with the bad. That's just part of the position. There's I get some praise. Some games we win, I'm like, I don't feel like I really played that great. Right. And there's some games we might lose, and I might make a few mistakes, but feel like there was, played a decent game. But it's not about that. It's about the result. What the result is. Did you win or did you lose? And you got to live with that. And everyone has their version of that too. It's not just quarterbacks. Everyone has their own pressure too. So that's part of this game, and that's what's cool about it, is it is a team game, regardless of what the outside perception is. It's a team game. You need all 11 guys on the same page, doing the same thing in order to win and be successful, and you really have to count on the guy next to you, and that's what's great about it.
Maybe you just touched on it. One of the lessons then you've learned in 3 years is it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Do you have to find that middle ground?
You want to try to limit that as much as you can by being consistent as a team, as an individual, your performance. I think consistency is big, and that's something that we need to improve on here. Our highs are great, but our lows are too low at times in the past. So that's something where you can manage and get better at that. But this league, it does kind of go up and down. The ebbs and flows of a season, you're going to have weeks where you play great, you play lights out, it seems like nothing can go wrong, and then you're going to have some weeks where it's just everything seems difficult, and you got to grind through it. And the teams that can, one, get through those games, maybe you lose a game early or whatever it is and bounce back, or finds a way to win those games where they don't play great but they still win. Those are the really good teams. So and that's what we're becoming, and I know we're heading there, and we just got to really hone in on the details, and consistency is big.
Are you much of a career assessor? Would you look and say, okay, I'm 3 years in, this is where I expect it to be? Or do you look at your game, as you kind of alluded to, game after game, or maybe year after year, where you are? Do you kind of think this is where I was meant to be, or how do you kind of look at your own game, I guess?
I think every year I try to just, sounds cliche, just do my best and do everything I can to be successful, to play well, because I know if I can do that and get the team and the offense prepared, we're going to have success, because you have to play well, especially as a quarterback in this league, to win. But, I think as a career, I never really, at the beginning of my career, said this is where I want to be in 3 years, so it's hard to put a gauge on that. But the one thing I do measure is, over the years, do I feel like, have I gotten better every year? Am I learning from some of my past mistakes? Am I taking the next step every year? Am I improving? Am I getting better? Am I getting the people around me better? Am I making them play better too? I think that's a huge piece of playing quarterback, is do you elevate everybody else's game? And I do think I've done that in my career, and I can be more consistent. I know I can play better, and I know my best football is ahead of me. That's what I'm excited about. But I do think I've been able to do that every year. But you got to keep doing it. It's only year 3. I hope to have a really long career. So a lot more growth is to happen, and I'm just excited for it. But this is a big season going on year 4, and the talent that we have, the pieces that are here. I think this is for sure the most talented team I've been on since being in Jacksonville. So we have the pieces, and we gotta find out where they fit and really get it dialed in camp.
Isn't, when you said it at the start, how much you've been through in 3 years? I mean, those are all chinks in your armor, aren't they? Things you learn. Those are all your experiences. Like, you can build on all of that stuff, whether it be, as you said, whether it's good or bad. Is that kind of what you just kind of take all that in, and it shapes you as you move forward?
Definitely. You have to remember stuff that happens in this league, especially just different situations, different games. Like, you learn so much every week, and you see so many different things in this league. It's crazy. It's from a football perspective. In college, we were the better team almost every week, and that's just an example of the games really didn't often come down to the very end of the game.
Right.
But in the NFL, every week you're playing against a team just as talented, sometimes more talented. Maybe you might be a little more talented, but it's razor thin, the margin.
Yeah.
So the situational aspect of football, it has taken me some time to learn, and there's so many different situations that happen, and it's through the years of experience where something happens to you and you're like, that won't happen to me again, because I know what that feeling is. Last year I threw like a flat route against the Ravens, and our guy caught it in bounds at the end of the half and got tackled, and the clock ran out, and we were on like the 2-yard line and didn't score. An example like that is like, that will never happen to me again, because that did happen to me, and I know what it feels like. And sometimes experience is the best teacher, and you'd love to say, I want to figure this out before it happens to me, but it's impossible to figure everything out. So learning from those experiences has been big, because so much happens.
A couple of those, I wanted to touch on a couple of big moments, and they're kind of, you touched on one of them there, end of games. So when games are on the line, the keys to your position, I'm thinking of the Baltimore game a couple of years back, where you come back late, then you throw the 2-point conversion to win it. Do you come alive in those situations? What do you like in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, everyone says, like, a lot of quarterbacks I hear say, that's what I want the game to come down to that. And it's like, I would rather us just win the game easier, and have a little less stress, but it does flip a switch in you, and you want to compete, and you want to make that play to win the game. And when it's on the line, that's your responsibility. I think that's, at the end of the day, as a quarterback, whatever it takes, whether you win a game by 20 or you got to make the one play at the end of the game to win the game, that's your responsibility. So yeah, it is cool though when you do have those opportunities and you take advantage of them, because when you look back, you're like, builds confidence in your team and in yourself. I mean, when you see yourself and your teammates making those plays when the game's on the line, that gives you so much confidence moving forward. I remember that 2 years ago when we did that. Moving forward, I think we won however many games after that.
Yeah, you went on a streak.
We went on a run, and we had a lot of games like that came down to the end, where some weeks the defense made those plays.
Does your mindset change in games like that, in moments like that? Do you think, okay, well, if I am going to run, this is when it has to be, and this is when I'm going to take extra care of the football, or I'm going to take a chance, conversely? You might play 58 minutes a certain way and then change it for 2 minutes. Is that right? Does it change or not?
It depends on the situation. It depends on down and distance, how many yards you need. Sometimes you have to make some riskier throws down the field if you need a chunk and it's the end of the game. You just have to. Some of those situations, some of them, if you're in the red zone and it's fourth and goal on the 2-yard line, then you only need 2 yards, but you got to make the best decision. You got to find the right matchup. Is it pressure? There's so many things that go into it. But I'd say it really just depends on the situation.
Yeah. Body language is such a big part of your position, and where the quarterbacks have got, they call it the it factor and stuff. And I remember the playoff game against the Chargers, where you came back, and in the second half, we talked about this in our Sky Sports studios. When you weren't on the field, you were pacing up and down like, get me that football back. I mean, you must have been, when it's clicking, and when you're in a zone. Was that the case that night, as you just wanted to be back on the field as quick as possible every time?
Yeah, I wanted to try to make up for the first half.
Well, there's that adversity we were talking about, 100%. Right? The ups and downs.
Yeah, no, it was, obviously the first half couldn't have started worse, but the way we were able to respond, we scored right before halftime, so that gave us a boost of, all right, now we're kind of settled in, finally put together a good drive, we scored, got a little bit of momentum back, and I knew that we were just, a couple things were a little off, a couple things, ball kind of bounced the wrong way on a couple plays in the first half. We knew we were close, but we did everything about as bad as you could, so we knew the second half was going to get better. We just had to, defense had to play great, basically not let them score, which they did.
Yeah.
And then, for us, we had to play perfect on offense and score basically every possession. So we knew what we had to do, and when we got the momentum, it was cool because every play we called, we felt like we had an answer, and guys were getting open, and guys were, after the catch, were running and making plays, and it's fun when it's all clicking.
Are you good at flushing bad plays and bad games? Because obviously you had to flush that first half. Yeah. And are you good at that, or is that something, again, is that a skill you have to acquire?
It's a skill I think you have to acquire. It was harder for me earlier in my career, especially my first year. Obviously everyone has bad plays, no matter if it's rec ball, youth ball, high school, college, NFL, you're going to have bad plays, but it's hard to sometimes bounce back and not let it affect your confidence, especially early in my career because I've had so much success in college.
Right.
And then the NFL was like, it's not like you're making one mistake. They just start to compound, and you have games where you just play really bad, and you got to find a way to forget about it and keep your confidence going into the next week and still make those throws that you can make and not shell up and get a little gun shy. And there's a lot of things that you have to learn from experience in this league, and I think that's one of them. Is you're gonna have bad plays and you got to move on to the next one. It's a long game. You can't let one play affect the rest of the game, and that's something that I have had to learn, and over the years I've gotten better at. And you feel it some games where you feel it lingering, and you got to have whatever your method is of getting it out of there and moving on.
Right.
You got to be able to do that, and I've learned how to do it over the years.
Talks about fine margins in the NFL. There's a lot of balance to your position as well, isn't there? It's like, take care of the football, but be aggressive. It's like, you have to, again, everything's like, you must have to tiptoe through, maybe pick your moments, when to put your foot on the gas, so to speak.
You got to pick your moments, for sure. And the one thing I do love about our staff is, I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, and I've had a lot of bad plays, and I've had a lot of good plays too, but they've always stood by the decisions I make. And obviously there's mistakes that I make after the fact, and you got to correct it, and you know that that's not where I should have gone with the ball, whether it's in traffic or whatever, or you fumble or something like that. But they've always had my back as far as when it comes to decision making, and that's something as a quarterback that I think you need, because you have to be backed by your staff, because you're the one out there pulling the trigger, and you can't be hesitant. You can't have that pressure of feeling like they're not seeing it how you're seeing it. So I give them credit, because they've always said, hey, we're going to trust you. We're going to have your back regardless of what you do. You're the one pulling the trigger. Trust what you see. And it lets me play more free, so I can take those shots and be aggressive when I feel like I have it and when I feel like I'm going to hit it. And it just depends on the situation. Sometimes you don't need that, but I think you have to have that to be a great quarterback in this league too.
Does where you guys were as a team 2 years ago, pushing Kansas City in that final 8 game, and even last year playing in position for the #1 seed, does that kind of drive you in terms of, well, we can be there again? And also, I guess, coupled with that was how frustrating the end of last year was, and whether that's motivation.
Yeah, I think we've shown the team that we can be, and we're more talented. We're a more talented team going into this year than we have been the past 2 years. But we've shown when things are clicking, when we're healthy, all those things, we're a really good team that can beat anybody.
Right.
But we have to maintain that throughout a whole season, and we have to get better. Kind of like we did in 22. We got better as the year went on. We don't want to start that bad. We started 3-7, I think, but we finished great, and we were playing our best football at the end of the year, and obviously didn't get the job done in Kansas City, but we had an opportunity, and we know if we get that again, we're going to take advantage of it. But last year was kind of the opposite. We started pretty good and finished poorly, and you never want that. So we got to find the balance in that, and figure out how to be consistent through a whole season, but also get better every week. Last year, obviously, we struggled at the end. It was really frustrating. The injuries kind of piled up for us, which was probably the most frustrating part. But good teams find a way, and you're going to have injuries, and you can't just pack it up and say, well, there's our season if some people get hurt. So I think we've learned a lot from that, and I think from a player's perspective and coaches, the stuff we've talked about this offseason has been really good, and just what the lessons we've learned and moving forward, just the intensity, the focus, the discipline throughout the week and throughout the season is going to kick up a notch this year for sure.
Are you a chip on your shoulder kind of guy? Because maybe people aren't talking about Jacksonville as much as they were the year before. And I actually think back to a game last year when you played against Houston, and it felt like the whole world was just talking about CJ Stroud, and you went in there and won that game. Do you put a chip on your shoulder? But do you use that sort of stuff?
I used to not be. I used to always say I didn't. I wasn't a big chip on the shoulder guy. But over the years, I've become that way because I think it's good to use some of that as fuel. I think you do have to be internally motivated, and it doesn't really matter because there's going to be. I said this earlier. There's going to be times where hopefully we're at the position where everyone's talking about how good we are because that means you had a good year, and the season before you played well and you did all the things you're supposed to do. Then you're going to have another set of challenges on dealing with everyone saying good stuff about you, which is just as bad as them saying bad stuff about you.
Just as dangerous, yeah.
So, I mean, it's the same deal, but I do think using that as fuel is good, and it's fun being the underdog. And when you have opportunities to go in, whether it's away games or whatever, and go to play teams where people are counting you out and they're only talking about the other team or the other quarterback, like that is fun as a competitor to go in and prove it, and that's what we want to do is just prove it. That's all that matters.
So you notice that if another quarterback is red hot and the flavor of the month, if you will, you're like, okay, don't forget Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, of course. You don't, you're not playing against the quarterback per se because we're an offense, but you do think about it does feel good to beat those teams, and especially when you're playing against a good quarterback, because you got to play good if you're playing against a guy like, say take Patrick Mahomes for example. If you're playing against him, you better score some points and you better play well because he's never out of the game. So, to be able to take care of business in situations like that is awesome.
Last one, the highest paid player in NFL history. Is that just a number and now you move on and you don't change? I mean, how did that kind of reflect on you?
Don't change at all.
Yeah.
It's just a number. Obviously it's exciting.
Sure.
I'm very grateful to be in this position and to be able to take care of my family and do a lot of good with that. Hopefully in the future, that's awesome. That feels really good to have the stability of being here for the next, have that 5-year extension. That feels great. But it's not going to change who I am. I'm the same guy. It doesn't really matter. I'm very fortunate. I was doing well before that, and life was good, and I'm grateful for that. And so it's not going to change anything about me. I got to still be the same guy. I got to lead the same way. I've never liked when guys either get a big contract or whatever happens and they change their personality and start becoming a different. Yeah, I mean, some not often, but you see and you hear about guys doing that, and not here necessarily, but just in the past. You hear about stuff like that, and that's never gonna be me. So I'm not gonna change who I am.
All right. Good luck this season.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.